Started cycling when I was 14. I'm from a small village in Norfolk, and I got into it because I used to have to bike to school and everything, and I just realised that I liked cycling. And also I saw a documentary about the Tour of Italy one Sunday afternoon, and from that moment, for some reason, I just decided I wanted to be a cyclist. And from that minute on, at the age of 14, that was all I ever wanted to do. I left school, and then as soon as I left school, I went straight to Italy, and I went and stayed with a family on Lake Como. And luckily for me, I won a race there when I was 17, and from that moment I thought that I probably might have the ability to not be a great champion, but to try and make a living out of it. Thing was, if you've got a dream and you want to do something, everything else, you don't think about it, because the minute you think something's a sacrifice, then you're in the wrong job. Yes, I've been working with Stephen Roach for the last few years in the Tour de France. We worked together as drivers in the Tour de France for guests, and I raced with Stephen before a long time ago. To be honest, all joking aside, it's pretty hard because Oscar's looking really fit, and every time we've been uphill, he's made my legs ache. So it's been good fun under the descents anyway, and the sun's been great.
So who's the fastest?
Oscar. Basically, I started cycling when I was 14, and I've raced in a lot of different countries. I've raced for teams from 5 countries: England, Belgium, Holland, Spain, and Portugal. So I've spent a lot of time abroad, and my best result, I was national champion of Great Britain. As you can imagine, you're pretty happy to be the best of your country. So yeah, it was great, and for me it was good because that meant that I got to go to a big team in Spain at the time. So that was really good. Thing is, with professional cycling, there's a lot of training. So you're doing up to sort of 120 miles a day in all weathers. As any professional sports person, it's just you've got to be 100% dedicated to what you're doing. So obviously it's hard work, but if everything comes together, then it has its rewards. Well, basically, you always have to. It's like a car, really. You have to have enough fuel in your body to be able to do the amount of kilometres that you're doing. So you have to, you don't have a ridiculous diet, but you just have to be careful what you eat. You need a lot of carbohydrates, you need a lot of protein, you need a lot of vegetables and vitamins. So really, to be honest, the Mediterranean diet, which you have when you're on Southern European teams, is nearly perfect because you have a lot of pasta, a lot of meat, a lot of fish. And it's just really not eating any rubbish food, I would say. It's just common sense and not being too fussy. Teamwork's very important, depending on what team you're in. I was quite often a domestique, so that is a rider that works for another rider. So if you're in a hilly race, you'd be a rider like myself. You'd be keeping everything together before you got to the mountains. So the team is not just the riders; it's your soigneurs, it's your mechanics, it's everybody around you. And if you have a good atmosphere in the team, I would say that's the most important thing, is the atmosphere and between the riders and the personnel of the team. It all depends on what the terrain and what type of race it is. For example, if you're in a Belgium type race where you got a lot of cobbles, a lot of crosswind, a lot of dangerous situations, then you have to try and keep your team leader out of the wind, so that they get to the cobbled hills near the front of the bunch. So that's you have to really fight for your position. It is dangerous. Whereas in a mountainous race, it's different because the mountains sort out who the best rider is. So that's more of a race of truth when you're going up a mountain, really. Yeah, when you win a race, it's a good feeling because you've put a lot of effort into trying to achieve a certain goal. So when you achieve that goal, then you have a lot of satisfaction. So yeah, it's a good feeling, really. Okay. Ever since I started cycling, I've always worn a wool vest, and as it regulates your temperature a bit, so even when it's cold or when it's really hot, I always have a vest on until it's over 40, and then I'll sort of think about taking my vest off. I mean, it's quite hot now and I've got it on, so. I try to cycle as much as I can. I live in Belgium, and in Belgium, cycling is the #1 sport by far. So I'm quite involved with a lot of young cyclists. So I try to go out training with them quite a bit. So yeah, I try and cycle as much as I can as time allows, really. Enjoyment's a funny word when you talk about cycling, because it's always, when you're doing it, it's a love-hate thing. You sort of love it and you sort of hate it. So even now, I can't exactly say that I really enjoy it, but it's sort of part of your DNA when you've been a professional cyclist. So you just do it, and whether it's actually enjoying it, I'm not sure. But it's something I like doing. It's part of me. The worst thing really is the crashes, because that's something that's really painful, and I've been in some pretty couple of really bad crashes, and that is by far and away the worst part of cycling. For example, I was in a really bad crash in Mexico when a drunken driver came into the peloton, and one rider was killed, another lost his leg, and it was just horrendous, and they had to stop the race and helicopter 40 people to the hospital in Guadalajara. And things like that sort of are a bit scarred into your brain, really, because even now I keep thinking back, and you think, I'm sitting here now going cycling, and there's like people who haven't got legs from that same situation. So yeah, you have to, that's the worst thing about cycling, really. If you want to be a professional cyclist, you have to give it absolutely 100%. And then you have the rewards as well, because not only financial rewards, but you get to see the world, you meet a load of fantastic people, and you actually have a very good life. So I would say that you have to give it everything, because you're only young once, and you have to, as I know a lot of people in the 40s, 50s, who would, if they turned the clock back, would have wished they'd given everything when they're young, because you have to do it when you're young. Hardest day of your life is the day you stop, because from the age of 14 to the age of 34, all I thought about was cycling, racing, the next race, the training, and then you have to stop, and it's a lot of people, they call it in cycling the black hole, and a lot of people take a long time to sort of psychologically get round to becoming a normal person, really, and some people never do, but it is hard to stop, yeah. Well, like the last few days has been absolutely amazing. We've had stunning weather. The scenery here is fantastic, and we have a great camaraderie between the lads here. And we're still competitive. We still try and push each other up the hill. Because when I see Stephen, he's always a little bit fitter than me. So this time I'm more or less the same as him, possibly. And so it's a little bit of a battle we always have.